Greetings, passengers. Aether here with a SimSword speed build for you today. It's been a while since I've played The Sims or built anything, so please forgive me if this turns out to be like the worst thing you've ever seen. But my main purpose for building this was that I really wanted to kind of get a reference for a story I'm kind of working on. I wanted to figure out what the inside of a space looked like, specifically this shed you're seeing on screen right now. The shed being the main dwelling place of one of the main characters in this story. They are a non binary individual who is homeless because their parents, or their family rather, moves out of the town kind of abruptly, leaving them the very difficult decision of choosing whether or not they want to go and lose their school scholarship. They have like a community scholarship where they go to school for free for 2 years for college, or they go with their family and live with their family, have like that financial support. And they choose to stay where their school is because otherwise they wouldn't be able to go to school. They can't afford to pay that. So they choose to stay in town and they end up being homeless because they have no other options. So they find this shed in the middle of the woods, kind of a hunting shed, I would presume, something that's not really supposed to be here but is. And they start living here. And in the story, they already have been living here for a while, which is why you'll see later that this is kind of filled up with a lot of their belongings. They've been here for quite a while, and honestly, they probably found this place a while before that happened. And that's probably one of the reasons they end up deciding not to go. They're like, oh, I already have a place to stay. Kind of. It's not exactly the best place because it's in the middle of nowhere. And if you've played Sims, you know that this is not a functioning build by the end of it. So, you definitely don't want to play with it unless you're doing some sort of challenge. Um, I'm not completely happy with how this build turns out in the end, and I'll explain why later, but we can get into that. Right now you see that I'm just looking for a bunch of items that I want to use, and it really just looks so chaotic and terrible, but I promise it looks like a little bit better by the end. This build is also a limited pack build. It uses 4 packs. It uses cottage living, obvious, which if you've ever played with cottage living, you know that this is a lot in on Henford on Bagley. It's such a hard name to say. It shouldn't, but it's so long. It's got the dashes in it. That's wild. Anyways, it has cottage living, vampires because I love vampires, and the little broken wall decals and everything in the spider webs. I love using those in every build. I like making things look a little busted. It uses laundry day and blooming rooms kit, I believe. I know a kit, so controversial. Anyways, I think you could probably still use it without laundry day and blooming room, but again, it's not a functioning build, unfortunately. I made this purely so I could figure out like the inside spatial awareness of this little shed because I couldn't think of. I was trying to figure out how it would work, what exactly you could fit in there, how much stuff you could fit in there. I think it's honestly a little bit bigger than I meant for it to be, but I couldn't quite get the shape or size I wanted with the Sims. I want like a half tile shorter on either side, and I can't do that. Something else I also wanted to figure out in this build was what exactly I could fit into the shed that they might be able to utilize in their day-to-day life, which is why you see me adding a stove, and in particular one of the older stoves that would be able to double as like a furnace for heat in the colder months, because this is an area, in my mind, the setting is an area that would be colder. There would be snow in like the winter, or even sometimes in the fall months it would start to get a bit chilly, so they would need some sort of heating source for themselves to stay warm through that time. And it's also, you'll see me putting this sign in the corner. And I believe it's like an event thing. But for me, I was trying to use it as kind of like one of those forest trail maps you see at parks, because I imagine the setting would be kind of like a national park type thing. Maybe not a national, but like a park area where you could potentially go hunting, or you could go like on the trails. You could go hiking, fishing, all that stuff. Although I think it would probably be like certain areas would be restricted for hunting, and it would be like seasonal. But I think the reason why the shed is here is for illegal reasons. Basically, someone comes here or used to come here during the winter and or like I want to say October, but I mean fall months, when certain game is like restricted potentially, and they hunt anyways, which they're not supposed to. Uh and probably also in areas that they're not supposed to be hunting in, because there's obviously a sign for trails and things right there, and they're over pretty close to that. Closer than I would actually imagine in The Sims, but there's only so much you can do. I kind of get distracted with the setting and like kind of creating and conveying that in this build, rather than doing exactly what I wanted the shed area to look like, which is why I spend a lot of time trying to like hide the shed behind all of these trees and this sign. I think if I were to redo this, I would focus more on what I imagined it to look like and what I wanted it to look like, closer to like the shed area, rather than conveying that story aspect. Because again, this is more of like a reference for me than like a build to convey the story. Although I do like that it sort of conveys that, but again, it wasn't the purpose. I think I would like to revisit this build maybe like a year from now, when I've maybe gotten better at building it in The Sims again, because it's been a while since I've played. I've been kind of busy with life things, so I haven't played a whole bunch, and I usually don't build. I build, but I usually don't build all that much because it takes me so long. This is a shed, and it took me like 4 hours, but I do spend a lot of time working on like the landscaping and everything, which I do think looks really cute. I think it turned out pretty cute, honestly. It's my style is very much like overgrown, put everything you want until it looks good. I size up a bunch of bushes and trees, and I try to um twirl them around twirl them around to make them look a little different. I really want to get the tool mod. I had installed it, but I hadn't figured out how to use it yet, the tool mod, so I could get more specific heights and everything for certain stuff. And I wanted to use some trees and make them look more like shrubs, but tall shrubs. But I hadn't figured out how to use it yet. So hopefully in a future build I can do that. I think I would like to do regular Sims builds, because I do really like playing The Sims. I've played it for years, just haven't had like a lot of time for it, and I want to change that and spend more time playing, because it's a really good game, and especially the most recent stuff, which I haven't gotten yet. Like if Lovestruck just came out, I would really love to play with Lovestruck, and I don't even have horses. I want to play with horses, man. I want to make like a zebra. I don't know if you can make zebras. I haven't been paying attention, but I would like to ride around on a zebra. I think that'd be cool. Make like a circus. Do you guys want to see a circus? I would love to build a circus. I don't know how I would, but that would be a lot of fun. I have some circus storylines I want to work on, but moving back to the stories, this character that lives here is a necromancer. Specifically, they are a necromancer with the aspirations and goals of becoming a lich. Crazy, right? You want to be a skeleton? Can't relate. I can totally relate. I would love to be a skeleton. I'd love to just be a skeleton, just floating around like a skull. Exciting. Anyways, that's why you see this decrepit tree in the corner there. It's I add more to that kind of like aspect right there, where this necromancer is kind of learning how to use their powers to bring back and also to both give life and take life away from things in the woods and using it on plants instead of like animals and other living, or well, plants are living, but other like sentient things. Um, and they're learning that way so they can learn to harness that energy and use it for other magic. Their main way of using magic, or the other magic they would do other than like necromancy, would probably be transmutation, like transforming thing, like mostly energy. I think they would transmute energy a lot. Like I can't think of a whole lot of examples other than maybe transforming thermal energy into electric energy, like using their own personal energy to charge a device would be the only example I can come up with off the top of my head. But I think also as they learn to harness this power, they will, as you see me building here, start to neglect their physical form. Like they will learn to draw energy from the world around them to sustain their life force instead of doing things like eating. I think they're a little honestly, this character for sure is autistic, like myself. Like, if I found out a way to just sustain myself without eating, I would basically, if I could find out a way to photosynthesize, I would, just like not having to deal with the whole eating thing all of the time. Just like trying to figure out what you want to eat. And they're homeless, so honestly, that just makes their life so much easier. Just not having to eat. But before they figure that out, they have like a little, I think, garden, or they probably like this little garden they have set up here. I do fill it up with dead plants, but at one point I'm sure it had like some real living plants before they were like, oh, I can just steal the energy from this. But at one point they were probably growing some like potatoes there or something, like root vegetables or reoccurring plants. I think those are they perennial. No, perennials are I don't know, but yearly reoccurring plants and probably foraging other plants throughout the forest. And then you see me here adding just all sorts of vampire decor because, like I said, I love that. I just want to make this place look as old and messed up as possible with all these overgrown plants and vines. Like, no one's been taking care of this, and the person living there now is not gonna get rid of all of these. It helps hide it from people passing by, and they don't want people to find it because then they'll find all their little trinkets inside that I eventually get to. But right now, I'm not at that point. My favorite part was probably the inside. The outside is looking pretty good by my standards, but the inside was my favorite. I love to clutter things, as if that's probably evident from outside too, but I love to clutter things. I love minor details. I really enjoyed doing all the little things. Like I had like this little gnome in the corner. At one point I put a little rabbit holding a flower on the other side. I have these stones leading up to the door of the cabin, or not cabin, the shed. It does come across as like a little cabin, but I don't think it could be classified as that because it has nothing useful in it other than the stove, which again is so useless when you're playing because there's no fridge. If I had the camping stuff, I think the stuff pack, I don't. remember what it's called. But if I had that, I could do a cooler or something. But unfortunately, I decided at some early on, I don't know why, that I wanted to do a limited build. Um, I think if I were to do this again, I wouldn't limit myself. I'd do as many expansions and kits and everything as I want. But I did not for this one. I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to see how whimsical I could, or how whimsical and how helpful I can make this build for myself with as little resources as possible. And I think I did pretty good. I think I got a better perspective on what the inside of this little place would look like from doing this. And I think I have unlocked a new interest of mine of doing these videos possibly more frequently or just in general. I hadn't originally thought of that. Originally, I was mainly posting some of my Procreate shorts on here of my artwork, which I would like to do longer speed paints of that. Eventually, I have to figure out the software for it. I just figured out this software and I don't know if it's on my iPad, so I have to figure that out. But hopefully, in the future or in the near future, you will be seeing longer speed paints of my artwork rather than just games. But I would like to do games as well. I would like to do a lot of things on this channel if possible. Like I would like to do physical craft videos where I make weird little guys primarily, or just random things that I feel like filling my space in my home with, or just like making available to you guys if you were interested in having them for yourself. In addition to that, I think I would like to do different games like Minecraft, Inscription's one that I'm really into, Stardew Valley. Just, I really want to create the kind of content that I enjoy watching. Those are like a lot of my favorite videos to watch on YouTube, and they're really just inspiring in my day-to-day life. So I would like to contribute to that, I think. Um, and I also want to try something new I haven't tried before, which I think a lot of us can relate to. Just kind of just trying it to try it, you know? Anyways, right now I'm working on the inside of the build finally. I'm really debate on the wall color on the inside because I like how it looks on the outside, but then in the inside it's a little bit more orange than I want it to be. I wanted it to look a little more neutral, but I don't know, it's the lighting. I couldn't figure it out, but I think I land on something more neutral and I go with like a wooden floor to make it look more cozy and a little bit less orange. um, the goal for the inside of this was I wanted to give Stanford Pines vibes, I think, because I love that weird band. Gravity Falls is one of my favorite shows, and it's getting really popular again right now. I have so many code videos just popping up on my TikTok. But I wanted to go for something like a little weirdo in the middle of nowhere with their very specific interests. I wanted to go there. This person's really into stars in space, but more in like a romanticized way than a scientific way. So originally I wanted to do that bed with the little planets on it, but I land on a base game bed. I think it's a base game bed instead because it fits more with the shed in the middle of the woods vibes. I think realistically they might not even have a bed in this place. I think they would probably like have a sleeping bag instead or a mat or maybe like a really sad mattress. Like a cot or something instead, but I didn't really have anything that I really thought suited it or that I wanted. And I really go back and forth on where the I wanted the bed. Originally, I knew where I wanted the bed, and then I forgot where I wanted the bed. So I end up messing around with the placement of everything, but I eventually get it. I wanted to do this mobile, but it really didn't suit, the colors really didn't suit with what I was going for. I was going for kind of an eclectic vibe. This character for sure has a car, like a van or something maybe, that they could also sleep in alternatively if they couldn't stay here, but they would rather not waste the gas because gas is expensive as hell. So instead, they grab furniture that they probably see on the side of the road and everything and bring it here so they can have like a desk for school and homework or a side table for their cup of water that they get from somewhere. I assume they go and either buy it, which is expensive and crazy, or they gather some wood and they go to the lake down at the bottom of this hill, which I don't think I show, but I wish I had because it is very pretty. They get some water from there and they boil it on their little wooden stove. Or maybe a fire pit, but I don't think we have base game fire pit unless I just forgot to add one, which is very possible. I also debate on having this kind of built-in shelf, but I think in the end I'd change it to being just a on its own kind of shelf. I think it could be built in still, but I think it doesn't look quite as built in. And I have all of these little trinkets. I have this little train because I think they would probably be into trains. I think they would be that kind of autistic person to have like a little train set because I'm that kind of autistic person. And I would really love to have a little train set. This they probably painted this themselves. It probably took them so long, and I love that for them. I also got this little wooden carving of a dragon, which they I've either made themselves maybe, but probably more realistically got from like a Ren fair or something because I feel like they would love going to like a little Ren fair or maybe just like a little artist alley situation. And with their very little money, because I don't think they have a very consistent job, because having a consistent job is really difficult. They probably live in a small town, so getting a job can be pretty hard if no one knows you, and if someone knows you and they don't like you, then it's impossible, and then maybe they don't like this person because they're a little weird. They're like, you're weird. I don't want you working at my business. People are gonna think I'm weird. And that's not how it works. And so unfortunately, I think they don't have consistent work, or at least if they do have a job, it's not very well paying, or maybe they don't get so many hours because they can't be paid too many hours by the person. Maybe they're hired by like an older couple and they really just do it because this person needs a job and they know that and they could use the help and they can hire them for kind of cheap, and because they don't really, like, this kid doesn't really have any other options, they agree, and they also like this older couple or something, maybe, at least. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I know that they would probably have some savings, but I don't know how much savings they would have, um because again, I don't know how they would get the money so much. But they probably here and there have gotten some cash one way or another, maybe selling some of the things they found on the side of the road or fixing a tractor. I don't think they'd fix a tractor. It's all I could think of though. um Here you could see me gathering up some little weird oddities or just things I think they would like. I think they would be big into reading, especially like fiction and just a lot of fantasy things. I don't think this is a world where things like necromancers and wizards and vampires and all that is like known to be true or real. I think this is something that they believed in and worked very hard to prove was true, and something that they probably question whether or not they're like hallucinating or going crazy about. And them being kind of isolated from others probably doesn't help them with this kind of feeling of hysteria. And them being kind of like really kind of ostracized by the people in their town would really not help with that either. And then their family uh, leaving them to their own devices to kind of figure things out would just worsen that kind of madness feeling. And then so they go out and try to find like proof maybe, and that's why I added like this little jar of an alien or something to like the little oddities collection. I also have like this little the little collectible of a zombie because I think they would be really into like just all of the little ghouls and creepers. I did think about adding the little robot because I do think like I think I mentioned I think they really like space, and I think they are really interested in stars, but in less of a scientific way, but more of a romanticized way. So I add like this little star picture here. I think instead of it being an actual like photograph, it would be a painting they made. But that's the only thing we have in The Sims, I think, or the only one that I liked. And so I debated putting like the little robot guy, but I decided against it because I don't know how. I think they would be into sci-fi, but given their situation, I don't think they would have as much access to sci-fi as they would just like, well, I guess there are sci-fi books, but I think they would have more access or more of an interest in just fantasy rather than sci-fi. But I don't think they would be against sci-fi. I think, like I said, I think this is kind of like a Stanford Pines character where they're kind of like anything weird I'm into. Like this person would fall for Bill so quickly. They would be like, "Oh, you like me? That's cool. We should be friends." They, well, I don't think they would fall for it. I think they'd be skeptical, but they would probably also be like, "Oh, I like you. You're weird." I don't even know if they'd be totally against Weird Mageddon, honestly. They'd probably be like, this is kind of sick. But then they'd realize the ramifications of the entire world being under his control. And anyways, this isn't about Gravity Falls. I got I've been watching so many little edits, and I just can't help myself. I'm so excited. I hope they come out with a season three. Anyways, you see me adding all of these little trinkets and doodads. I have a little, I think it's a hematite stone. I think they would really like crystals, and also if you don't know anything about necromancers or specifically liches, you need kind of like a phylactery to keep your soul in. So I think they would have probably considered putting their soul into like a hematite crystal or just a crystal in general. They also have plants there, like I said, so they could practice their skills. Or also, I think they would probably propagate plants to try and replant the plants they destroy if they can't fix it. They don't want to cause too much damage to the ecosystem. So anything, I think the tree was probably an accident, and then the plants they grew was on purpose. I don't think they want to damage the environment surrounding them too much because I think they really care about the environment. Like they're a very nature oriented person, though I don't know how much of like a green thumb they have. I don't think they would be super great at taking care of plants. um, but I think they would have an interest in taking care of plants. More than that, I think they would have an interest in taking care of animals because I think they would use their powers to go out and help animals that they find trapped in these illegal traps from these hunters that should not be staying in these woods or hunting in these woods during certain times of year or at all, possibly. they would go out and free animals from those traps and use their powers to like heal them or bring them back from the dead if they had unfortunately passed from these terrible, awful, abandoned, probably sometimes traps, because I think they would probably also find a lot of old traps that were left behind. And I think in addition to freeing these animals and healing them, they would probably kind of adopt them in a sense. Not like domesticating them, but bringing them food when they have extra or something's about to expire and they don't want to risk eating it and getting sick. Anyways, you see me kind of add this debug light. I do add it back, but there's, if you go into, I think it's live edit mode as well, but the debug, you can find it and it lights up the area pretty well. I wanted that because I don't want electricity in this build, but I wanted to be able to see. And I do an oil lamp too, but I think realistically they would probably have a rechargeable lantern or something instead that they would probably take with them to school and charge in the background. But I just liked how this looked more for the purpose of the build, and I don't think I really had that option for the packs I had. I don't know if there is one in the game. I'm pretty sure there is, but it's probably not the colors I want. And I go in and I add some posters and things around of just things I think they would enjoy or just have and want to try and make their space feel more like their own. I imagine this cooking poster is probably for a game rather than a show. I think it's like Iron Chef or something, but and I also add these little sketches, which I think realistically for the character would probably be more along the lines of like magic theory or drawings of creatures they've seen or things they want to see, probably, because I think they really want to see the magical world and be a part of it, and then not having been born into it and not really knowing if it's real. They are desperate to kind of capture the essence of it and be able to kind of make it feel more solid in their world that is so unstable. And I try to add some more little knickknacks on here, a lot, and some more little crystals or stones, as well as this little skull. I think they probably found it and they feel really bad that it's gone, but I think they want to study it because I think they like its anatomy. I don't know what, I think it's a bird, but I think they're really enamored with the skeletal structure of many animals, including humans, because it's very interesting. But at this point, we're reaching the end of the build where I start to do train paint, which is my least favorite part and the thing I am worst at. I just pick a color and I go around and try my best. But anyways, I'm not going to talk about that too much because I'm not very good at it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this build, and I hope you enjoyed me rambling, and I hope it made sense. Um, if you want more of this, please leave a like, maybe subscribe, definitely leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I hope to have more for you soon. Um, yeah, I think that's it. This has been Aether, signing off. Have a good one, guys.